Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well and staying safe during this quarantine. My name is Elena Paredes, and I'm a member of Citizens Climate Classes. We're a small group of individuals who like to get together to learn and share about sustainable living practices to help, over time, reduce our impact on the environment. Today, I am going to share with you some vegan recipes, in particular a vegan taco wrap, as well as a chocolate pudding, chocolate avocado banana pudding that is delicious and creamy, and you won't even miss the fact that it doesn't have any eggs in it. All right, the other goal here that I had was to show you that using vegetables in your cooking can be quick and easy. So I wanted to fit everything within this 1 hour. So we're doing everything from boiling the water to like plating it in 60 minutes. All right, so here we go. So let's start with the lentil taco wraps. So for the lentils, you need about a cup of French green lentils, a cup of walnuts, some few spices. So I don't know if you can see, I'll kind of move around, but what we have here was some oregano, some cumin, and some chili powder, a teaspoon and a half of each. And then we also have some salt over here, just a half a teaspoon. All right, and then I also have some bell peppers and onions to saute so that we can add as fixings. I also have some tomato and some green onions. And of course, no taco is ever finished unless it's topped with some limes. So we have that as well. And we'll have some avocado as well to add to the tacos as fixings. And I also have some washed and dried lettuce wraps. They're just romaine lettuce leaves. It isn't anything special. You should easily be able to find them at the store. All right, so to get going, we're gonna start boiling our lentils. So the first thing I'll do is I will rinse them out. You wanna make sure you get anything out of them that you don't want. I'm gonna start my pot. I'll do that. And rinse out my lentils. Good. Shake them out a little bit just to get rid of some of the excess water. We'll need this later to just drain them. So I'll just put them in here for now. And we'll add some water. Just, I don't know, just cover them enough so that you still have some, plenty of water even after it starts boiling. So maybe a good 3 cups or so, 3 to 4 cups. You should be pretty well covered. I'll see if I can bring it over and show you. Give me a second. So you can see they're just boiling. There's nothing special about that. Just make sure they're well covered with water. We're good. So you can take them up to a boil. And after that, you can reduce the flame to if you want to medium. But for now, I'm just going to cover this. All right. So our lentils are started. Next on the docket, we have the walnuts. So it's just regular walnuts. I bought them raw. I'm going to roast them here. So to do that, I'm just going to bring them onto this rimmed baking sheet. I put a silicone pad on there, but you don't really need that. I think you should totally be fine if you were just to lay them on there directly. And just spread the walnuts over your rimmed baking sheet. Spread them out so they have a good amount of room. And then you're going to roast them in the oven for about 10 to 13 minutes. So let me bring this up a little bit. At 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So, just pop them right in, and then you can get to other things. All right. So our lentils are going. We need about 20 minutes for the lentils. So I'm going to ask Alexa to remind me when that's ready. So Alexa, please set a timer for 20 minutes named lentils.
Lentils timer, 20 minutes.
And we need one for the walnuts. I'm going to put them in there about 13 minutes. It should be fine. So Alexa, please set a timer for 13 minutes named walnuts.
Walnut timer, 30 minutes, starting now.
Okay, so those are ready. We don't have to worry about them for a bit. But the next thing I want to start prepping then is these yellow bell peppers. With the bell peppers, you can just make one or two. I just went with this one because it was rather large. So I'm just going to saute it with a little bit of olive oil, and then we'll be ready to go. All right, so heat it up. I'm going to start the pan at around medium heat, and then I might lower it a little bit later. Oh, I forgot I have all my oils out here already. I'm adding about a tablespoon of oil to the pan. That should be enough, just enough so that nothing sticks. And once that heats up, we can pour those in. So something else that I didn't mention at the beginning, I have Brad here who is helping me moderate the chat. So if you have any questions at any time, you can just type them into the chat, and Brad will let me know. So he'll also be helping me do some of the camera work. So if you want to, take a closer look at anything, he can definitely help bring you over. So he was, carrying the camera over a little bit a while ago when we showed you the lentils in the water. All right. So anything you want to see, any questions you have, just put it in the chat, and Brad can help us out with that. All right. So I think with that, our oil looks pretty ready to go. It is sliding over the pan, so I say it's ready. Get a spatula. So you can just move these around and keep an eye on them. Just so you know, just in the interest of time, I might be moving between the chocolate pudding and the lentil taco wrap, just to try to get everything in an hour. So hopefully that doesn't get too confusing, like what I'm working on at each time. But for right now, I'm working on just the lentils. All right. So for those of you who haven't tried vegan cooking before, I was in that same boat a few years ago. In fact, I think usually it was a bit of a struggle whenever I had vegetarian or vegan friends coming over for dinner, and it would give me a bit of anxiety of just thinking like, what can I possibly cook? And I was so used to thinking, not that I never cooked anything that was just vegetables, right? Usually side dishes are vegetable heavy, but oftentimes what would happen is that the main dish was a struggle. I just couldn't think of anything else to cook other than pasta. And so what ended up happening is at work, a friend of mine started a vegan cooking club. And once a week, each of the 3 members would take a dish, and they would cook something vegan for all the other 3 members of the group. So that's how I started getting more used to eating vegan. and trying out and testing out recipes is because I was part of this club. And so I started trying all kinds of things, and I went even a little bit crazy. Like, I was trying to recreate, or I looked for recipes that helped me recreate things that I loved that were non-vegan, just to see if it could be just as delicious. So things I tried were like vegan mac and cheese. I even tried a vegan meatloaf that used tempeh as the base. All of it was very good. All of it was super simple to make, easy to transport and feed, 3 people. It was also rather like hearty. So I was surprised at how easy it was to actually find vegan main dishes, because that was the fear that I had before. How do I create a main dish? So that's just a thought. If you're thinking of trying out more vegan or even just vegetarian cooking, but you're not sure where to get started, you can, ask a couple friends at work, ask your neighbors, ask a couple friends that you know even personally, and say, what if we started a little club where we try to cook vegan once a week for each other? So in the case of the vegan cooking club, because it was 3 of us, we had 3 vegan meals 3 times a week. We had 3 vegan meals a week, just because each one of us would take a different day. Like, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's who would bring in food that day. Yeah, so it worked out very well. And the great thing about vegan food is that it does really help reduce our carbon footprint, because animals are, produce a lot of greenhouse emissions when they're being raised. So, I mean, it's not even just about the raising of the animals, right? You also have to feed them. So on top of having, raising and growing these animals, you're also having to produce the food that's going to feed them as well. So you have definitely a higher footprint when you're consuming animal products regularly. So just a thought, if you want to reduce your carbon footprint, one of the easy things to do is to start a vegan or vegetarian cooking night in your home, so that you get used to cooking more vegan or vegetarian meals, and at the same time, you're reducing your impact by reducing the number of animal products that you're consuming regularly. I actually am not vegan, and I'm also not vegetarian, but I cook quite a bit of vegan and or vegetarian food during the week sometimes. Especially during this quarantine, I would take a whole week where I would try to cook mostly vegetarian. I haven't done a whole week where I try to cook vegan, although I guess I could try that. But it's actually rather easy to do, especially now during quarantine when you don't have all these other social pressures to cook in certain ways. It can really allow you to focus on this particular skill and just hone that. I think these peppers should be almost ready to go. They look pretty soft. You don't want them too soft. I don't know if you guys like mushy vegetables, but me in particular, I like them a little bit crunchy. So I'm not going to go too crazy. But they're nice and brown and thickly caramelized. So that's the other thing with, can you see? Yeah, that's the thing with some of these, with sauteing. You want to move them around, but you also want to give them a little bit of time to rest, because that's what's going to really allow them to caramelize at the bottom and give it a little bit of a sweetness and crunch, and that nice brown look that we all really love in food. So, all right, I think I'm going to transfer them over to plate. I'm going to put these before. Here. And there you go. Right, there we are. Not quite full yet. hopefully soon. All right, so we pretty much have all of our ingredients for the taco toppings. The lentils are still going, the walnuts are still going. So in the meantime, I think we can start on our pudding. All right, so for this chocolate pudding, it's complete. Let me show you the ingredients. So we're going to use, basically, I have a couple of things that are chilled in the fridge because that's how we can make sure that the pudding is cold and ready to serve when we want it. You don't have to refrigerate the ingredients ahead of time, but then you might have to chill it in the fridge a little bit before you serve it. Okay. So some of the things we need are 3 medium bananas. These two are a little bit bigger than I'd like. You want them to be a little bit more like this size. You see these two are a little bit large. So I'll probably use this and maybe 1.5 of these. You also don't want your bananas to be super ripe because you don't want the banana flavor to overpower, so that's what's going to happen. These are probably a little more ripe than I'd like them to be. You want them to be rather yellow with a few brown spots. These are a little bit more brown than I'd hoped to have them, but with quarantine, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult and challenging to schedule your visits to the supermarket. So you have your bananas. You're also going to add about half a medium avocado. I promise you, it might sound strange, but you're not really even going to feel the avocado. It's really just there to give it some creaminess. And then lastly, I should have had this ready. You're going to need about half a cup of raw almond butter. So most of the things that are going into this are raw. You can even get some raw cocoa powder if you wanted to. This isn't raw, it's just unsweetened cocoa powder. But if you wanted to, you could get raw cocoa powder and make it an all raw chocolate pudding event. We'll also, so into the chocolate pudding, that's all we'll have, just these 4 ingredients and a little bit of vanilla extract. So that means that there will be no sugar added to the pudding itself. If you want to, you can have some organic coconut milk that you can use to create a coconut cream, like a coconut whipped cream. So we'll be using this, just the top layer of coconut cream, to create just a creamy whipped cream, and we'll be adding some powdered sugar to that. Although you could also use maple syrup or honey to flavor it as well if you want to use more natural sugars. I'm going to put this back in the fridge just because it has to be really cold for it to be whipped. So I'm going to go back in for now. All right, so let's see how the lentils are doing before we get started on the pudding. They are boiling. I'm going to lower the temperature a bit. All right, so let's get started on the chocolate pudding. So we'll need about 3 medium bananas. So I'm going to put them into this blender. Normally, I would put them into a processor. I think it's a little bit easier in the processor. You could probably also mash them and just whirl it all by hand if you really needed to. So if you don't have it, that's fine. But I'm going to use the blender. It can get a little bit harder to put in, but it should work just fine. I'm just going to wash my hands again. And then we can start putting in the bananas. Just to make sure it's not too overpowering, if I see any parts that are already browned, you can cut those out just to keep the bananas from being too overpowering in the dish. Take that part out, take the rest of it. It might be good with just these. And I'll save my peels to put them in my freezer composting. And Citizens Climate Classes is actually going to do another series potentially on composting. So if you're interested in learning more about that, just stay tuned. In the next month or two, we should be able to give you some more information on that. So I have about one large banana and one medium banana in there. I'm gonna put a little bit more from this one and then call it a day. And that's about 3 medium bananas. So it has more brown. All right. After that, we're gonna put in half an avocado, and then we're gonna use the other half of the avocado as toppings for our tacos. All right, so we are. With the avocado, you also want to make sure that it's not super mushy to the touch. Like if you think it's overripe, you probably want to choose a different avocado. You don't want it to be black inside either. That might blackened because that might create that just won't make it taste so good. You really want a very nice green avocado that is creamy but not overly ripe. Same thing here. Scoop these out. That's pretty good. Then you can just take a spoon and put it into the blender. In fact, this one maybe was just slightly less ripe. Maybe that'll even out with bananas. Avocado is actually used a lot in other places for dessert. I lived in Morocco for a little bit, and one of the things that I used to love that I've never seen anywhere else and that I thought was a bit strange. They have these amazing milkshakes, like fruit-based milkshakes, and one of their shakes was an avocado shake. So I remember thinking that was so strange the first time I saw it. I was like, avocado and milk, does that really go together? And then after a year of living there, I finally decided to try it. And that second year I lived there, I just became obsessed with the avocado shakes. And that's the main thing that I would get at these cafes when I would go visit them with my friends. So avocado as like a dessert or a sweet dish, we're not used to seeing it in that kind of thing as much in the US, but I know other places in the world might be a little bit more used to that. So really, it wasn't as strange to me when I saw it in this recipe. If I'd seen it before going to Morocco, then I might have thought it was odd, but then once I saw it in here, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. If I liked it in milkshakes, why wouldn't I like it in pudding? All right, the next piece is 1/4 cup almond butter. All right. This is raw almond butter, but if you, this is the kind that you just grind in the store. But you can also use roasted almond butter. So sometimes if you buy the pre-made almond butter that is already at the store, that is prepackaged, not pre-made, it's prepackaged. Sometimes that comes with roasted almonds, or they use roasted almonds to make the butter, and that's fine too. That would probably just give it a nice flavor as well. And this one I was going for like a raw feel to it, but so you're using mostly raw ingredients. I think the only thing that might not be fully raw is the cocoa powder. You know what? I can just bring this over here. And I can face you. All right, so put in the almond butter. And almond butter has become like so widespread now. I don't remember it being as used maybe just like 10 years ago, but now it seems to be all the rage. So it's always nice to try out new ingredients if you've yet to try it. I really like it with apples as well. The perfect complement to the sweetness of the butter, of the apples. All right, So let's put this aside. The only thing we have left now is a teaspoon of vanilla. Sure. Well, actually, no. We're missing the most important ingredient, which is the cocoa powder. So I'm going to put in about 2 teaspoons. You can taste it and add more as you like. So don't feel...
Your lentils timer is done.
Alexa, stop. I don't think we got a walnuts timer. So I'll take those out. Over. Alright. They're pretty good, they're not burned, so that's the beauty of doing it at just 300 degrees. You're probably going to be totally fine, even if you over roasted them. I can bring it over so you can see. There's not too much color to them, but they're pretty hot to the touch, so they look just about the same as when I put them in. But it'll be easier for them to break apart once we put them into the food processor, and it'll also give it a really good roasted taste to the lentil taco filling. Let's see how our lentils are doing. You might still need a little bit. I'm gonna guess that they need about 5 more minutes. So you can touch them, but they should break apart easily in your fingers. But mostly I like to give them a try. And if they're still a little bit crunchy, you just definitely want to wait a bit. So give it a little bit more time. So I'm going to give it about 5 more minutes, 5 to 10 more minutes, and I think they should be ready. So I'm just gonna let them keep boiling for now. All right, so we'll come back to the avocado, chocolate, banana pudding. So as I said, you could use raw cocoa powder. This is just unsweetened cocoa powder. I think it is actually roasted beans that were used, so it doesn't say that it's raw. So I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons. If you use raw cocoa powder, you could just probably add a little bit more cocoa powder than you would if it's just like roasted unsweetened. I'm going to add, and then you can taste it and adjust your taste. Adjust to your taste. All right, here we go. There's that. All right, so just to recap, 3 medium bananas, half an avocado, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and 1/4 cup of almond butter. And then it's going to be a little bit loud, so just keep that in mind. So one reason I don't love to use the blender for this, which is why I said the food processor works a bit better, is that I think it creates air pockets and then it gets stuck and you have to go in there with a spatula and try to get that going again. So just keep that in mind. It's not a problem, but just a little bit less simple. All right, so yeah, see when I put the spatula in, I can feel that there's this like kind of an air pocket where there isn't much of anything. well blended and then give it a try. See what you think about the taste. It's pretty creamy, pretty chocolatey, but I think you can use another tablespoon of chocolate. I think the bananas are coming in a little bit stronger, which I expected because they were a little bit overripe. All right. So let's put in more and more tablespoons of chocolate. Pop this back on. All right, let's try it one more time. Pretty chocolatey. All right. I'm going to check on the lentils and then we'll come back to this. The lentils are still going. We'll get another spoon. They're definitely done now. Okay. I'm going to let them just stay in the water for a little while longer while I talk about prepping the chocolate pudding. So what you can do, actually use some of these glasses, I should put them down. You can put your pudding into glasses like this or any type of ramekin you have. Like I could have used these little ramekins, and you can serve them and prep them and then put them in the fridge so that they can get a little bit cold. It's fine as it is now, but if you want your pudding even colder, you can do that. This probably will serve about 3 people. We'll probably stretch it out to 4 if you need to. All right. That's good. Now, all right, I'm going to put this in the fridge so that it's nice and cold for later. All right, so back to the lentils. I think now they're a little easier to pot now, so we will just strain them and then blend them with the walnuts. Shake that out a little bit. All right, so now we're going to take a step away from the chocolate pudding, but we'll come back to it because we want to finish a nice little coconut cream for the top. But let's move in. Let's talk a little bit about the lentil taco meat. So what we're going to do is we're going to pulse the walnuts a little bit in the food processor on their own. I've done it in the past when I just waited and I processed them together with the lentils, but what ends up happening is that the lentils get a little bit overly mushy, and you want to make sure that although you want the lentils to definitely blend with the walnuts, you also want to be able to see like a handful of whole lentils in there instead of just mush. It creates a little bit more texture, and I think not that lentil meat is ever going to fully replace taco meat, but it actually feels a little bit more like the textured taco meat if we have a little bit of whole lentils in there. So we don't want to mush it up too much. So I'm going to just pulse my walnuts on their own for a bit.
Your walnut timer is done.
All right, Alexa, stop. All right, I think that's good. Just kind of get it started. So now we can put in about 1 3/4 cups of the lentils. So I have a half cup here. Take it from here. Actually, let me bring you over a little bit so you can see some of the consistency of these. I was handling this camera as I should be, but you can see some of the consistency of the walnuts or how small they are. They're still somewhat large, but most of them have been cut up a bit. All right, I think that's good. So that was half a cup of walnuts, half a cup of lentils that I just put in. We're gonna add a total of 1 3/4. So here is 1 cup. 1 cup and a half. Slightly less than half of this will be 1/4. All right, so we have the lentils, we have the walnuts in here. Now I'm going to just add, again, the 1.5 teaspoons oregano, cumin, and chili powder, and half a teaspoon of salt. So it's 1.5 of these three, and then 1 of the salt. So I don't think you can really see that. So oregano, cumin, chili powder, and salt. Okay, put it in here. Put the cover on it, and then we can just pulse the So you want to just pulse it. You don't want to just let it run, because if you let it run, what's going to happen is you're going to get that mush, and you are trying to avoid that. So just pulse it a few times and help the walnuts mix in with the lentils. Let's take a look. I think that looks pretty good. So you should be able to see. You can see that you can still see some of the full lentils in there, but it's still kind of mixed in with the walnuts, and you can't really see the walnuts anymore. So at this point, I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to stir in some olive oil and some water. Right. It's my dish. I have all kinds of things over here. It's a little bit busy on this table. All right, so we have our taco meat. That. This is also a good time to kind of start mixing everything together in case like the spices didn't really mix as well yet as you'd hoped. right, so then we're going to add about 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil. This is tablespoon covered in chocolate. So I'm going to wash it out. About 1.5 tablespoons. And then 2 tablespoons of water. Sorry, now my face keeps getting cut off. Try to be more conscious of that. All right, here we are. 2 tablespoons of water. 1, 2. And again, you just kind of mix that all together. It's probably easier if you just use some. You want to add the olive oil and the water because it'll make it less dry. If you don't put it in, it cakes up a little bit too much and it's not quite as dry. I think the olive oil also adds a good, nice, nutty flavoring to it. All right, and then, hey, there you are. Your taco filling is ready. So let's put that together and see how it goes. See, it's only 40 minutes in and we're already finished with the meat part. All right, that bottle's all good. Yeah, that's that. I'm going to move this to the side for now. All right, so if you wanted to prepare the taco, let's focusing on the table. Oh, we had that half avocado as well. Let's add that too. I had a dish here to put the avocado in. Let's take that seed out. This part I'll use. Probably a better way. Always, it's a little bit scary to, but then I can get that seed to come out. And then we can cut it up. Just take out the skins and then get some avocado ready for your tacos. And then my slice. All right, so now we're definitely ready to put these tacos together. Just going to wash my hands, get all the avocado out, and right, so the plate. You take one of your lettuce pieces. You take some of your lentils. So there we have it. You have your taco meat base. You can then add some bell peppers and onions. Add some tomato. Might be a little bit more full than should be. Some green onions. And a little bit of avocado. Squeeze of lemon just to give it a little bit of a kick. And you're good. You're all set. You can wrap it up. Maybe you're better off cutting this one up into two, but then you're all good and ready to enjoy. A really crunchy, fully vegan, vegetable rich meal that doesn't have any sugar and is still super flavorful and also helps reduce the impact on the environment. All right. So that's those are the toppings. That might make more sense. Okay. All right, so let's finish up the pudding so we can get to eating, right? So we finished up our pudding, so that was in the fridge. Now let's make that coconut whipped cream. So with the coconut whipped cream, you want to make sure that everything is as cold as possible. So we had the coconut milk in the fridge till the very last minute. And we also put in I'm going to use my KitchenAid mixer for this. So the mixer, I put in the bowl I'm going to use into the freezer. If you don't have a stand mixer, if you're just using a hand mixer, you just make sure that the rods, I'm not sure what they're called, the actual tools that mix the whisks, that they're put into the freezer ahead of time, and then whatever bowl you're going to use to mix them in, just make sure that that's in the freezer as well. All right. This. And let's open up that can of coconut milk. So sometimes when you put the coconut milk into the fridge, you will get a layer of coconut oil up at the top. You can, I would recommend just putting that aside and just keeping the cream. In this case, it doesn't seem to have a really large layer of coconut oil, so I'm not going to worry so much about that. But you can see this is coconut milk, but this is rather creamy. I don't know if it's creating a bit of trying to create the right lighting so that you can see. But it's rather creamy and mushy to the touch. So we're going to scoop that out. Your goal is to get as much of that coconut as you can without getting much of the water. You see, it's perfectly creamy. If I run into any of the coconut oil, I'm just going to put that aside. You don't want any of the water. Is that a little bit too far? You don't want any of the water because it'll take out all the fluff out of your cream. So just try to keep out the water as much as possible. You can also drain this and then just take the cream. The coconut water that's left, you could discard it, but if you want to, you can also use it in smoothies. Some people like to just add a little lime to it and eat it that way. So that's what's left. You can see the clear difference between, you want to grab? you can see that all the water is left and we've just taken out all the cream. There's still a little bit of cream in there, but mostly all that. All right, so then we have that. I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of powdered sugar. So half teaspoon, about 2 teaspoons or 6 of these. So I put in about 2 tablespoons of it actually. 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar. So here we go now. And now we can just blend it. I should put it in first. It looks pretty good, but I'm just going to get some of those pieces that are on the side. Bring them in. Just because I know some of the powdered sugar hasn't quite made it there yet. All right. Let's give it a try. It's pretty good, really creamy, sweet, perfectly sweet. Let me show you what that looks like. You can actually already see it on the lip. It's probably the best place to see it. But let me show you here. It's, I don't want to get you towards the light because then it's hard to see, but you can see that it's really whipped and creamy, just as regular whipped cream is, and it's really, really delicious. All right, so now let's prepare our mousse together with that. Chop mousse, let's get this out of the way. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I like it more than regular. Let's take this out. Pour it on top. Just a couple scoops. All right. And if you want, you can add a couple walnuts to that. A couple pecans is what I'm going to add. You could also add some jam here. I'm not going to open it, but you can also add some jam. You could also add berries. Originally, I was hoping to add pomegranate seeds, but I didn't find any, so I ended up just going with this. So let me show you really what that looks like a little bit better. Actually, maybe I can write down the presentation things. That's best. So you can see what the layers there. And ready to go then. So here we have our lentil walnut taco with a raw chocolate pudding with coconut whipped cream on top. And you're ready for a full vegan meal. We've done it within an hour. And you're ready to go. The kids are happy because they get something sweet, but it doesn't have too much added sugar. The only thing that has added sugar is that whipped cream. And the lentil taco is fun for them. They can put it together and then, gobble it right up. So hopefully this gives you an idea for how easy it can be to introduce more main dishes into your cuisine that are vegan, healthy, full of vegetables, full of crunch and flavor. They're bright and colorful. I mean, you can't really get more bright and colorful than this taco. And they're also yummy and delicious and creamy and filled with kind of things that we love, like chocolate pudding. So you don't really have to skimp just because you're eating vegan. In fact, these are things I like to eat regularly, even though I'm not vegan myself. So stay tuned for more upcoming Citizens Climate classes, perhaps another session on vegan cooking. In fact, vegan baking is how I first got into baking. So I might do a vegan baking class later on this summer. But for now, enjoy your taco, enjoy your vegan chocolate mousse, and have a great rest of your day. All right, I don't think there were any questions. If anybody has any questions, you can add them now. I guess we have a couple of minutes. All right, cool. Thanks everyone. Have a great one.